Good evening, folks, and welcome to Lockdown Conversations, our Thursday night fix for all the amateur drama people out there. I hope you're all well, and I hope you're all safe and sound and keeping safe away from this virus. You know the usual story, folks. We like a comment of what festival you're from, what group you're from, what part of the country you're from. Anything there in the comments, just to say hello to us and to let us know that you're watching us live here tonight. Okay, folks, we're ready for another lockdown conversation, and tonight I welcome all the way from West Cork, the village of Rossmore, Ger Finn. You're very welcome to Lockdown Conversations.
Thank you very much, Paddy. Thank you. Good to talk to you.
It's good to talk to you too, Ger. It's strange times.
I think I'd rather meet you in another setting.
Well, sure. Look at it can't be helped, but hopefully we will soon.
Yeah.
Hopefully we will soon. So, Ger, to start tonight, I suppose the same way as I start all our lockdown conversations. How did Ger Finn become involved with amateur drama, or how did amateur drama find Ger Finn?
How could he avoid it? I tell you, I was born in the village, and there was a new hall built here the year I was born, 1948. And, it was everything as a young fella running around the place. We were always hanging around the hall, you see. And the drama scene was very active in our parish. There was 3 groups there sometimes. There were 2 there, virtually all that period. And in 1956, our parish priest, he came up with this idea of fundraising, really. It was during Lent, and dancing was forbidden during Lent. So on the Fridays and Sundays of Lent, he had drama groups from various parishes in West Cork in competition. There were adjudicators coming from Cork on those days. Sometimes they stayed over the weekend with the parish priest. And that took off. It was a big, big one. And it was fantastic. And it ran so well. Then Fleur Delay, he's a native of our parish. He was the principal in the 2-teacher school I went to. And he actually won the All-Ireland with Riders to the Sea in 1959. And with the other group here that was run by our local curate, they were doing Paul Twining, and they needed a young lad of 10 or 11. So I was the nearest to it, and I fitted the bill. So that was me, my debut on the stage. And I remember traveling around to various places in the back of an old Volkswagen. You remember that there was a space behind the back seat. I used to be tucked in there behind, about 5 of them smoking in the car and whatnot. No wonder I developed it. Yeah.
So that's how it all started.
Yeah, that's how it started. So I went away to boarding school then in 62, and I was up the Capuchins outside of Cork, about 6 miles outside of Cork. But there was plenty of drama in the school, which wasn't stuff that you'd have on the stage. But the Capuchins ran the Father Matthew Hall in Cork, and that was the home of the Southern Theatre Group, the group that gave John B's plays Oxygen initially. Mm-hmm. And we were often bussed in there on a Monday night. I'd say to fill up seats up in the balcony. And we saw some lovely shows there. James N. Healy was the director. Fleur Delay had now moved to Cork at the stage. Michael, you see, a whole host of people that you got to know afterwards in the Opera House and various places. So that was very, very good. And I went to Dublin, and I was in St. Pat's. And sure, going to Dublin, we were like, the freedom of Dublin. It was unbelievable, because after being locked in for 5 years, sure, we were like calves left out after the winter. So Dublin, it was a very colourful place. The flower power era was in there, and we were out holding. But the St. Pat's students, we got passes for everywhere. You could dance 7 nights a week there.
Wow! And
we often got passes for the big concessions for the likes of the Gate. Now Hilton Edwards and Micheál McLeamer were the 2 luminaries there at the time, and we saw some great shows there. I remember the importance of being earnest and a whole host of other stuff. Many of them I probably didn't understand. Mm-hmm. One figure I always remember was seeing there was Luke Kelly. He was always at every show I think I've ever seen there. But we always get into the Olympia sometimes. You'd get upstairs in the gods, 3 stories up, as we were standing. And sure, it was a night out, and we really enjoyed it. So I was back home in 69. I started teaching that little school that I was attended.
Yeah, just out the road.
Yeah, just down the road here. No, this was in the village, Paddy, at the time. Village, yeah. There's no word now, about a mile down the road. But I started teaching there, and I started doing little plays. But Macra and the Farmer was very, very strong here at the time. And they had become very successful, especially in the speaking competitions, in public speaking, panel speaking, debate, etc., about novice and open. And I joined up with that gang, and we had a great time. It was buzzing. And I'll tell you, it made everything we have in this parish. It gave shy young fellas the confidence, and many of them went on to bigger things in life afterwards, So that was my initial there. So the festival was actually beginning to die at that stage. It was late 60s. The advent of television had a huge effect on things, and of course, the singing lounge bar.
Yeah.
So it actually died out around 70 and 71.
So you sat down then as a committee, Ger, and you revived the drama festival.
We started then. We about 71, 72. A new committee was formed, and it was very, very strongly made up of Macra lads. And we had one fantastic guy, Paddy Cuhan, and he was our chairman. I was secretary at the time. And Paddy was a fantastic man. He was very far-seeing. And he had this brilliant art of delegation. He'd bring everybody with him.
Yeah.
So we were traveling out in support of the Kilmeen group at the time. They'd started on the circuit a few years before that. And we were going to North Cork, and we were going to festivals, Féile Limni, and down to Killarney to the Kerry Festival, so on. And we knew that, well, the way forward is to attract good groups. How do you do that? Try and get a nomination. So to that end.
So back then, do you know the way the rule is now? Is if you're looking for a nomination, somebody has to vet you and all that.
That's correct.
Who was on the vetting board back then?
P.V. O'Brien, Father P.V. O'Brien, the famous man.
Wow.
But we had to comply with minimum standards. We had to do a lot of work to the place. We didn't have any money, so that everything was voluntary.
Yeah.
The stage was extended out towards the front. It was made a little bit wider. I think the dressing rooms were it got a bit of attention at the time. We bought a lot of second-hand lighting, put the rear lighting controls down on the back of the hall at the time. And he came and he invested us, and he was very positive, and away we went. And I'd say by 75, we had the festival up and running. Now, we were owing the parish priest. Because we didn't have any money, he gave us a fairly decent bit of a loan at that time. Everything was devised money to try to pay back things, But we came up with some very interesting things. One of the strongest pillars of our festival at the time were the ICA ladies. They looked after all the hospitality, and they were great. And then we got a license for our bar. We got an occasional club license just for the festival. And we started doing things. We started up a major thing really called Friends of the Festival, where we went out. We divided up our parish areas, and we went out, and we went to every house around. And for, I think, just £12 at the time, we would put their names in the program and give them 2 free seats to the festival.
Wow.
And we went into the towns, and we got great backing. We had up to 300 people on the Friends of the Festival, and it was great advertising for the festival as well. So that festival went very, very well, and we were getting really good groups at the time. The Shamrock Drama Group down from Ringaskiddy, Hallbowlen Naval the Theatre Group with Lieutenant Commander Liam Smith. Michael Reardon had gone from the Cork stage down to East Cork, down to Killa, and he formed the Glenbower Theatre, and they were wonderful. And just over the border in Waterford, Blackwater players, Jim Carrick. Further on under the Cumrals, there was Kilross and the Infuse, and they all started coming to us, and then Limerick groups. And within a short while, we had Tommy Clark coming from Dundalk, we had Nace coming down to us a few years later, bit by bit with the Wexford group. So the festival it really went well. But the group were going well as well. And I suppose there was often a bit of tension between the group and the festival, because I'm sure some of those fellas are saying, who are these young buckos? Where are they coming from? But anyway, we were strong supporters of them. And
were ye all the one at that time? Like, was it all?
No, never. We never coalesced. We're still totally two distinct bodies completely. We have our own membership, our own treasury. Everything's there. Now we work hand in hand.
A lot of you would overlap, like on.
Oh yes, indeed. I mean, sure, you could be a member of the GA, and you could be also on the ICA, So a lot of the lads were, but most of the guys who were in the drama group at the time, they didn't never came aboard on the festival per se.
Okay.
But we were great supporters of theirs and vice, and so on. Yeah. But that things just took off. And John O'Sullivan, he's originally from Courtmacsherry in West Cork, but he's an agricultural department guy anyway, and he came back from West Limerick, and he had been, I think, with a group down there called Kilady. So he was experienced, and he became the director. Now, there were two guys here, Dennis McCarthy and Tom Donovan, and they were the backbone of the group for years and years and years, and sometimes they directed. But Jono came, and Jono raised the bar, and he did a lot of wonderful shows with them. He was he won the All-Ireland with the Black Stranger in '76. He did the Cuckoo's Nest, like so Johnny Belinda, the Crucible, Country Boy, all those sort of things, Big Maggie's, and a lot of the John B's.
So while your festival was established, the group was flying as well.
Well, they were going very, very well, and they were winning at a lot of festivals. Jono actually got them to Athlone on 4 occasions.
Wow.
They won the Confined, which was held up in Loughrea. So you went open, and from there on,
Yeah.
So he was a great man, and when he eventually left the scene, Paddy Keohane, who had been sort of, he was our head and our everything with us, and he was a great guy, and he was directing for the likes of the drama group in Mockra. Mockra had their own drama section, and many of us took part in those. I won my first award in '73 in Cork at the county final of a little one act.
Good man.
But sure, I was always a festival person. I suppose I've dipped in and out of the group a bit.
Yeah.
Some cameo parts usually.
Yeah. So you always had then a wide range of directors and in Kilmeen, and then in the festival was growing from strength to strength, and a great rural community and push behind.
Yeah, that's right. Like we looked after our audiences very well. We postered everywhere, every shop went to. You get a West Cork Drama Festival poster, and we made big efforts. We all give our audiences free tea and coffee at the break and 2 biscuits.
Yeah.
And people they appreciated that.
Yeah.
So all this thing went well. But Paddy moved on the group then to, he actually got to Athlone on 5 occasions, but he did a wonderful Sharon's Grave there. He got second in the All-Ireland with that. He got second also with Lunasa. Wow. We were there with Dr. Fell, the Honey Spike, the Bog of Cats, and so on. And he put together a very good group. Nora Scannell and a few of the others became major players on the group.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But Paddy, unfortunately, he was taken from us in 2002. It was a terribly sad time.
Right.
He had developed some sort of a tumor behind his duodenum or something. It was inoperable.
Mm-hmm.
And it was happened out in Barcelona. And he was hospitalized there, and the poor lad, he came back in a coffin. And it was major.
Yeah.
But Paddy, when we did Sharon's Grave, we were invited up to the Maytime Festival in Dundalk.
Oh yeah.
And at that festival, there was a guy over from Israel, Yankee Faulkner, and he was doing a festival in Tel Aviv, an English-speaking festival, and he invited us over. And
over to Israel.
Yeah, over to Israel.
So that was the first of your trips away.
That was our first trips away, 1994. So the following which was at Easter, we spent over a week out there, and we had a wonderful time there. Our lads, our crafts guys, backstage guys, they made a complete set the day after we arrived in.
Wow.
Yeah, we did 2 shows then in Tel Aviv. We got tremendous appreciation there. We traveled around to all the religious high spots that we learned about in our Bible history. But we went to kibbutzes. And so we always thought that the kibbutzes were hippie communes.
Yeah.
By God, were we to find out differently. They were highly organized. They were doing some wonderful stuff. There were wineries there. We went to a farming one, another place where there was agriculture. They had 400 cows. Wow. Those cows never went out in the fields. They went out and they cut grass every day and brought it into them. The cows were milked 3 times a day. There was a computer would indicate what foods were to be given to what feeding stuff was to be given to the cows depending on their yield and whatnot. There was a chip in somewhere in their bodies that told whether the cow was going to dairy, whether
They were way
had
ahead.
mastitis. They were miles ahead, miles ahead. That blew us away.
Yeah.
And then we went up to the north of Israel on Good Friday night. We were staying in another hotel up there and near the Sea of Galilee.
Mhm.
And we hired a big cruiser, and we had music, singing and dancing out there and plenty of booze, even though it was Good Friday night. We had a great crack there. And the following day, we went up near the border, another kibbutz in Lebanon, near the border of Lebanon. And we put on a show there for the Irish troops. They came down from Lebanon with their blue uniforms. And it was a magical night.
I'd say that, yeah, absolutely.
Back to Jerusalem then for our final thing, and we got an invite into, I think it was the consulate there, the embassy, and there was a lovely reception put on for us. They even had green Guinness for us, so
wow.
yeah, it was fantastic. It was a brilliant trip. Yeah, so
that's one you'll certainly never forget anyway.
Never forget Paddy. But so, as I said, poor old Paddy, he was taken away from us, and it was devastation.
Yeah.
But Tim Coffey was big into his acting at the time, and Tim undertook, to have a go at the plays. Christy then did a play, I think it was 2004, and we got to the All Ireland with it, All My Sons. Yeah. It was a lovely play. But Tim took more or less, he took a firm hold of the group from there on, and he did the Kings of Kilburn and Portia. And then, of course, 2006, it was a big win, the crucial week.
Crucial week, yeah.
And that was wonderful too. My goodness, the homecomings of that were unreal. The bonfires from Alice Taylor had a gang out in Ennishannon through Bend and into Clon.
Wow.
But
it was like winning to that end of the country. It was like winning a hurling or a football.
Every bit of it,
Yeah.
And then in 2011, they did the Whistle in the Dark.
Mm-hmm.
My God, that was a brilliant show, and that won at Lone.
I'll never forget it. Never forget it. Yeah.
The violence, and that was. I remember one time they did the show up in the Opera House in Cork. That was the thing that the group often did, go to the Opera House for a week.
Yeah.
Go to various other places. Go down to Sheen to Tier in Kerry.
Yeah.
But the lads had these bottles that they were smashed over their heads at the end of the play. Christ, there were people jumping up on their seats.
Yeah.
They were made from sugar bottles.
Yeah. Tim was an extraordinary director, and then he went on then to do the Playboy and
no, the Weir came the following year.
Weir. And
the Weir was a great show as well. Excellent. You know that they rehearse a lot of that in bars.
Yeah.
In the real pubs.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a great win. It went to Athlone, it won Athlone. And then poor old Tim, he started the Playboy for the next year. Mm-hmm. And he had the framework done, he had a good bit of work done it. And then after Christmas, he wasn't coming up to some of the rehearsals, and nobody knew exactly what was happening. And sure, as time went by, I think they realized that things were serious. Mm-hmm. So Kevin O'Donovan, who had starred in the Crucial Week in The Whistle, he took over the mantle of directorship. Like, he was going to meet Tim and talk to Tim at his bedside, and Kevin put his own stamp on it. He created beautiful pictures in that play.
Yeah.
But poor old Tim was taken from us just before the festivals.
Yeah.
And again, it was a savage blow. Savage.
Oh, an awful blow.
The area.
An awful blow to amateur drama in the country. Never mind.
Absolutely. Oh.
Never mind West Cork, but
geez.
Nationally,
that was devastating.
Yeah.
But his wife Juliet, she's been very good up to us always, and she's very artistic. Mm-hmm. She's a painter. She was a dancing teacher by profession. Mm-hmm. Well, she worked with Tim originally. I think that's where they met in the printing works in Bandon, and then she did a dancing school, and she was very artistic, and she was great. she made a lot of some of the furniture in her own house, the utility. She did all the carpentry and that. Then you say she was a man by day.
So, and unfortunately, then when poor Tim passed away, Kevin continued with the Playboy, and brought it to Athlone and sunk the 3 in a row.
Won the 3 in a row. Yeah, it was wonderful, but you know, it was sort of bittersweet.
Bittersweet, yeah.
Yeah. But out of the Playboy, then we got an invite to America. So out of the USA.
Number 2.
Yeah. So, the following year, we had done. We did 5 specially for Israel. But anyway, the Playboy was gone to the States, and our chairman of our group at the time, Michael O'Mahony, his son had gone to the States, and he worked out in Lancaster with a very enterprising Waterford guy. He had lots of enterprise there, but he ran this huge pub down in Lancaster. And through his good offices, Michael met this guy, Joe Devoy was his name. And he came to see the play at some stage, and he photographed it, and he measured every bit of it.
Wow.
And the lads took it down to the amphitheatre in Inchydoney. And that was a magical bit of work down there, because there's a beautiful amphitheatre out in front of the Lodge and Spa Hotel. And they took the set and they opened it up along up there and that. And of course they all had to be mic'd up, and with the seagulls screeching and the wind, the waves crashing.
Magic.
There was about 400 people there each night, and it was really special.
Yeah, it was. I had Irene on in my first series, Irene Kelleher.
Yes.
And she referred it to as absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Irene played a huge part in it. Yeah.
Most special nights on the thing.
So we went to the States, and out there, this guy Joe Devoy, he had what I call a wood shop. It was a big joiner, is one of his businesses, and he made the exact set, and he trucked it up to New York from Lancaster, and we did 2 shows up there in New York, and again it was brilliant. Now I suppose it was a lot of the Irish Pats came to see us there, and it was great, and we had a lovely time, and we travelled around quite a bit there, and then we bused down with our own coach. And there were actually 49 of us together. And we went down to Lancaster.
There was quite a big crowd. He went.
Huge gang. There was 39 went to Israel.
Last man out, turn off the light, huh?
Yeah. I can tell you it was like that. And especially when we got down to Lancaster, where it was much more relaxed down there than in New York. The bustle of New York was. So we had a great time down there, and we put on the show 2 nights running. Now, it was mainly Americans came to it, but the lads here, Kevin, Michael's son, and Joe Devine, they had whisked up a huge audience for us.
Wow.
Because they were running this colossal bar. It was on 4 floors. Wow. It's called Tellus 360.
Right.
And by God, to some size of a thing. Kevin is actually managing it now, and I think he's trying to he'll take it over if he can get a visa.
And another very, very memorable trip. All the time at home, Ger, we'll come back to the group in a wee minute, but all the time at home, the Rossmore West Cork Festival is growing and growing and growing. You ran the one
in 82, we ran the first one act. We were delighted to be given the honour of hosting it. And that was a very, very good festival. You know, there's a lot of work putting together that over a tight weekend. And it was a very exciting time here. Again, getting in All Ireland was huge around the area. Yeah. Excitement was massive. And sure, a lot of groups who never came to Rossmore before, they visited us. And I remember Mary Thurston and Sean Corcoran as youngsters, they were with Ritual for Dolls. And there was a group came from Coolmine. And they must have had some sort of an unusual sat-nav or something. They went to the wrong Rossmore, about 20 miles away, a tiny little townland beside it, in Shigila.
Wow.
And they found themselves going up a little narrow road, and they came to a cul-de-sac, and they had to open the gate. drove the bus into the field to turn it and got stuck in the mud through the month of December. So they were there for ages before some local farmers retrieved them. They did make Rossmore. I think they were scheduled to be on first, but anyway, we got them on number 3, and all was good. But it was one of those events that I'm sure, well, it's amusing now, but it wasn't so amusing at that stage. But I think they look back on it as
wasn't amusing at the time. You hosted the 3-act finals then.
Yeah, 84. 84. Yeah. 83 and 84.
84. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So the 1-act was in 1982.
Yeah.
But the 3-act then was in 1983, and again that was very memorable. There was a cracking standard in it.
Yes.
We had 2 Dr. Fells, one from Headford, one from the Neil and Mayo. Rashomon from Tubbercurry.
Yeah.
Philip O'Gorman and his gang, and then out from Ballybofey we had Johnny Belinda.
Wow.
And several others. And actually it was a whipping thing. And Headford won it with Dr. Fell, and they went on to Athlone, and they won Athlone.
Won Athlone as well.
I think first time ever, and I think it's the only time.
Yeah,
that the group came from the confined and swept into Athlone. The following year, then 84, another very good festival.
You ran the finals again.
Yeah, in 84.
Wow.
And this time, there was again there were some excellent groups there. Obviously, I always remember Father P.V. O'Brien. He came up from a group called Ashtori Cushcoon in Galway, and he did the Sorcerer's Tale, one of the funniest plays I've ever seen in my life. It was set in a monastery back hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and there were a whole host of monks, but they had a laboratory and they were trying to find the alchemist stone, and the experiment just got wrong. Boom! Next thing, Helen of Troy appeared. The big problem then was to get her out of the monastery, get her, dematerialize her. Things went wrong again, and next thing, boom again, and out would come Salome. She's the women started fighting with each other for the attention of some of the monks, and there was a little one came in over the wall, and it was hilarious. But that was an event. Oh yeah, our road came from Tubbercurry again, but we're down from Ballybofey. Actually, Conal, the comedian, Conal.
Alan,
yeah, he won his best supporting actor here, and he'll tell you afterwards it launched him because he got the confidence to go on the road, and he's a very accomplished comedian now.
Yeah, very, very.
And the following year, then it was, as I said, it was 84, and Side actually won it. It was from Anvil in Limerick, and it was such an emotional play. And Irene Roston was the adjudicator, and she was totally overcome with the emotion of the whole thing, because they did it beautifully on the night. It was really, really good, and they won it. And the guy who got best actor in that festival was John Kinney, who later was part of the Unbelievables.
Wow, from Hospital in Limerick.
From Lochgore.
Yeah.
Down there, and
then Ger, he went into a massive job of restoration of the hall. In the early 2008, 2009, around that time, was it?
Yeah, well, 2001 was when we built on a new room along outside next to the auditorium. That's the Rossmore room.
Yes.
And we put new windows in. We put a new roof on the auditorium. New lighting system at the time, and we got second-hand seating from London. There was a conference centre closing down, and all those seats were brought over, so we were able to get rid of the stacking chairs, and now we had nice soft seats. But again, so that was it, and it boosted the festival. It was more comfortable for our audiences, certainly, and the festival was going well at that stage, and that was the time that Paddy Keohane was doing most of the directions. Now Dennis McCarthy and Tom O'Donovan, they were involved in it as well, especially they were involved with the group very much,
Yeah.
So then, Tim Coffey, as I said, had come on board then in the Paddy was there for the 90s, and he died in 2002, and Tim was there from the 2000s then, for another 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
And the group was forged ahead, and of course the festival was on the back of that in many ways.
Yes.
I mean, they strengthen each other.
Absolutely. One plays along with the other.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
You applied again for the finals. Sorry, just going back to the festival, but you applied for the finals then again in 2013.
Yes, but before that, we did the one act finals again in 2007.
Yes.
And we have done them more recently, as you know.
Yeah.
But yes, 2013, I'm sure you have good reasons to remember it.
It's one I'll never forget.
That was Trad was fantastic. There was great competition there that year,
Yeah.
But Holy Cross had a great show there, and Stephen Acton was there. There was some great people. Liz Lee, all the way down, from then you had Pomeroy.
Yeah.
All these were there, and it was wonderful. It was like an international meeting.
And it was a fantastic festival, and absolutely fantastic. It was fantastic.
So we were thrilled with it.
Yeah.
I suppose one of the things we started in early on our festivals, we always took the final night to a hotel down the beach, down on a Hincha. And many of the groups were able to come back. They busted back and they had good nights, and they got to know each other. That's the beauty about the one act. All the groups are around together, so they're great. There's great camaraderie and great crack, and they have the common bond. But earlier on, this was a very good way for a lot of our groups to come back and celebrate for a night, together. So they got to know each other, rather than just, call out the results.
Yeah. When you run All Ireland, you run the one act then again, 2019.
2019, yeah. 2019.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and of course, in the meantime, Irene and Dennis won the Open, the one act with Disco Pigs
in Ennis
in the same year as Kilmeen winning with the whistle, 2011.
Yeah.
So that was a bumper year.
That was a bumper year for drama in that neck of the woods. After the lovely Tim Coffey departed, Donny took up the mantle of director.
Yes, he took over the mantle then, and I tell you, Donny was a very inventive, very, very, the first play he did was the Walworth Farce.
Yeah.
That was something to tackle, He did a beautiful play, Death and the Maiden. Now, it wasn't totally ready for the festivals, but I remember seeing it afterwards in the Opera House in Cork, or maybe perhaps it was the Everyman. But it was fantastic. Now, had that been at that level during the festivals, I'm damn full sure that would have gone into Athlone. But he did go to Athlone with Run for Your Wife and The Seafarer.
Yes.
He took on again. He did the Shock Ron, and he did the Lieutenant and Inishmore as well. So that brings us up to the present day. And Christie was doing last year's play. He was doing Sharon's Grave.
When COVID struck.
We know where that is.
Yeah.
That's in mothballs, and I think it's going to stay there according to him.
Where COVID struck. I have a couple of questions to ask you about an Irish wolfhound on the Opera House stage. Will you enlighten me a wee bit on that? Yeah.
Well, way back there was a gang of us. We were doing light entertainment, and there was some 4 or 5 of us. We always did the comedy pieces. But one of those pieces anyway was I was an old farmer and I was marrying this young. She was a hippie. It was all decorated flowers, and we had the quick wedding ceremony, and I remember being asked would I have in the hold till this day forward, and I'll have her and I'll hold her till this day fortnight, and that sort of stuff. So in that anyway, we went to the hotel to the receptionist, and I wanted a room for myself and my wife, but I wanted another room for sex. The hotel receptionist said, "There's no problem with that, sir. You don't need another room for that. You can have it in your room." And I said, no, we never have sex in the bedroom, in our bedroom. So sex was actually a dog. He was a big Irish wolfhound. So I went to the side stage to retrieve the dog. And when the dog came out on the stage, the audience from behind, there was about 1,000 people in the Opera House. The dog lost it. He jumped clean over me. He vaulted across the stage. And needless to say, we didn't win with that carry-on, but it was good fun. It was great. It was great crack, yeah. But
It was great fun.
yeah, yeah.
I heard a whimper of a story when I was down there at the One Act 2 about a leg dangling on a judicator.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, it was one of the Dublin groups were here at the time. He was Stanley Hildebrand. He was Australian, but he was living in England, obviously. And we used to get mostly English adjudicators at the time. They picked him off the go-to list. But Stanley was quite nice man, you know, straight as a die sort of thing. But he was on stage. Now he tarried. He was delayed after the final curtain. He was slow on coming up on stage, and we used to have a raffle always. The raffle was a very important part of everything here always.
Mm-hmm.
But while he was tarrying, the group, they swept their stuff off the stage. They cleaned the stage out, just a bare psych. But they had a guy up the trapdoor up over the stage, and he was obviously out in the FOHs, maybe with a follow spot or something.
Yeah.
And it was arranged that a tall step ladder would be under the trapdoor. And when he failed to find the step door was forgotten. He failed to find it, and it was Stanley giving his adjudication, and this leg came dangling down from on high. And of course the audience laughed and laughed at it, and of course he got quite taken back with it. And he glanced around quickly to see who was the joker on the wings, and still people laughed more. So then he turned around, he checked his fly, and people laughed more, and the leg was still dangling. And it wasn't until the guy upstairs decided there was no ladder there. The things cooled down, but he lost his cool. He gave the group a hard time afterwards, undeservedly. But look,
yeah,
that was one of the. It was great. It was very funny at the time.
Very funny.
Yeah.
There's another one too. I said I'd ask about tonight about adjudicator being late.
Oh, indeed, yeah. We had one fella here. It has been here from Cavan, Pat Campbell, always like Pat was always late coming to the festival. He'd always, and he'd sit on the steps going up to the dais, up to the adjudicator was at the back wall.
Yeah. And
every night the adjudicator used to go down to the pub for a couple of pints. And Pat was always a man for down to the pub, and indeed a lot of other fellas, Tom O'Donovan and a number of other guys. And they obviously got chatting below there, and they used to have great discussions. And there was one night, and the play had restarted. And I think we were backstage, and somebody came back and said, "There's no adjudicator." So I ran down to the pub, and there were the two boys. They were still sitting down. The play was on for 10 minutes before he came back up. And now he did slip in, but I'm sure probably not totally unnoticed. But he gave the group a hard time that night. And I remember it was freedom of the city, and he didn't give them a lot of freedom afterwards. They were a group up from Tralee, and I don't think they ever again stood in the circuit. So
Wow.
So that was an incident rather than an amusing one, you know. But it was.
Pat Campbell wasn't an easy man to get away from. I got collared by him and Dennis Deasy one day in Athlone myself. I know how the adjudicator felt.
No better boys. But there was another time, Paddy. There was a group coming from Waterford. Now in the early days, we used to have to put up the sets, make sets, send us a drawing of the sets. But thankfully, things changed, and they all began to bring their sets. But there was a group from Kilrossin and Fuse, and they were great characters. But their set was in a cattle truck, and they came in a minibus. But the minibus was here before the truck. In fact, the truck never arrived. The customs had stopped it somewhere down in East Cork, and they'd impounded it, truck, set and all. I'll tell you, there was some consternation in the village and trying to get furniture out of the houses, and sure. I don't think we had any table and chairs for the breakfast anyway next morning.
Yeah.
But it was great at the time.
All great stories and great excitement. It'd be a miss of us to go tonight, Ger, without. We mentioned Paddy and we mentioned Tim and of course Declan Price.
Oh my God, what a lovely man he was.
What an actor.
Declan, he came from the Moat, but he was down here in the bank, and he met the love of his life, and he married here. But he was bank manager in Dunmanway, and I think he came for about 12 different shows. Now afterwards he lived in Skibbereen, so he went with the Skibbereen Pater Society. But he was a fabulous actor.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably saw him in The Whistle.
I did.
He won Best Actor that year.
Yeah.
He was dead in it, and he gave that drunken speech, just himself and Irene on the stage. She lurking in the door of the kitchen. He up in a chair, and my God, was that some speech.
Mm-hmm.
He had always resisted putting on makeup, but
Yeah.
anyway, they prevailed upon it that night, and he had a fine big bulbous red nose, and God, he looked the part. But he deserved it. I remember the day after the festival, I was talking to John P. We were in the bar in the Radisson, and John P. said to me, "That's the best 5 minutes of acting I've ever seen."
Wow. Yeah.
But poor Declan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Declan was in Dr. Fell with us, and he used to take his drama very seriously. He grew his hair in a ponytail, and he was the bank manager, and he was the talk of the town in Dunman with a three-piece suite bank manager with a ponytail. Now there were loads of hippies around, but not the bank manager. But Jesus, he didn't care. You know, he was very devoted.
Very devoted.
He was a great man. You know, he did a great in All My Sons later. The powerful guy. You know, he was absolutely
powerful,
lovely man.
Powerful.
Oh, dearly missed. He died the following the same year as Tim, actually, back in December of that year.
Yeah.
You know, 2013.
Yeah.
A big, huge loss to everybody.
Huge loss, and I hope they're in their eternal award.
Yeah, I do. I'm sure they are indeed. Yeah.
Ger, you dab your hand at directing.
Oh, I did.
Directing
and a bit of cost. I mentioned earlier on, I was obsessed with The Sorcerer's Tale when I saw PV doing it here, and it was the 50th anniversary of our hall, and the priest asked me, he said, by any chance, could you put together some bit of entertainment for the 8th of December? That was the anniversary date. So I had got hold of the script of The Sorcerer, and we scrambled a gang together. We did at breakneck speed. I knew very little about direction. I remember I used to have the table. I was part of a grid with it, like a graph, and I used to be moving the fellas around like with drafts, you know, just to, you know, that was my direction. But anyway, we went to it went on. It was a great night. Everybody enjoyed themselves, and it was a, you know. And afterwards, there was a group coming here regularly. They were from Martello in Dublin, and they were a lovely gang. But Trevor Bailey, their director, used to tell me that they used to go out to the Isle of Man every Easter. They used to spend a week out there, and they used to take part in the festival there. So he said, "Why don't you come out there?" Sure. We applied, I suppose, through his good offices. We were accepted, and off we went, a big gang of us. And now we hadn't put in a huge amount of rehearsal into it, and unfortunately, any of our top lightsmen, Dennis and Sam, they had work commitments. Dennis O'Donnell, he's still with us. He's there for a long time now, but they couldn't travel. And the guy who did the lighting had been a sort of, you know, he was pretty new to it. First and foremost, they had a preset board, and of course that was something new. There were lots of lighting cues in this play, and then we had the pyrotechnics. But anyway, on we went, and from the very opening of the play, I think it was the cues for the second act were coming on. The technician couldn't be found anywhere. He was up in the top story of the house playing cards with a gang.
Oh God!
It wasn't until break time he arrived on. Some of the pyrotechnics went a bit wrong, and then worse still was, at the end of it all, they had you together. He was a stuffy old English guy, but he said he couldn't understand one word we were saying. We were in our West Cork brogues and talking 100 miles an hour. But he gave best supporting actor. We had the weakest guy in the cast. He was an English guy. He got best supporting actor. It was some sock to us afterwards, but we enjoyed the crack. But everyone got violently sick coming back. The waves are rough, and then you know, it was very, very rough, and it was one of these what do you call them, catamarans, is there? Yeah,
catamarans.
Bounced all over the place.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, my that put me off direction for a long time. But I more recently I did take it up with
you run the summer theatre.
Basically, Like, you see, we took over the hall in the early 90s, and we have a long lease in it.
Mhm.
So we're responsible for everything that happens there, and we have to organize it. We're the administrators of it. And every single thing, right, 365 days a year, we're responsible for it. Upkeep, maintenance, organizing who's and what, often difficulties with the stage, who gets the stage, who has intentions and different things, so on. So, but to make some money, now the festival ran the drama festivals all the time, but we always had very good sponsorship, and we developed a great link with a lot of the festivals down here, you know, with businesses down here.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had a great rapport, and we used to always do a special night for them the night, you know, before the festival. And, you know, they were so willing. I remember I couldn't get over it one time. Eugene Scally, a super valiant lad, he said to me, he said, "'Tis an honor." He said, "Just the support, you know."
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Fantastic. But yeah,
And
so we started with concerts. We ran a lot of public, you know, big concerts. We had the Foster and Allens, and, you know, the Tommy Flemings, and we had the High Kings, you know, all those for several years. And we ran those, and we actually did very, very well out of it. They were good money spinners for the festival side of it. But in the group, they were very dependent on, you know, what they got out of the festivals. Some plays would make a lot of money for them, you know, especially if they were
just breaking, yeah,
comedy especially. But so anyway, we decided. I saw what was happening down in New Ross.
Yeah.
Gorey, in the Gorey Little Theatre. They were doing comedy there during the summer. They'd have one play in July and a different play in August, maybe one night a week or perhaps 2 nights a week. And I went down to see that a few times. And now they brought in outsiders due together. Pat Connaughton was a regular there. Pat was a great favourite here in Rossmore over the years, in all the Enniscorthy group. But Mighty Dunbar used to direct for them. They was bringing outsiders, and so we saw that was a great attraction. So we started working on that, and you know it worked well. We did a lot of shows. We started off with Dr. Fell, lovely play, Thy Will Be Done.
Yeah.
Beautiful play. We did Awake in the West, the Real McCoy. With Us Paradise was a big winner. Out of Order. More recently, Nobody's Talking to Me. And you know, some of those now, I went up to Glore one time to see one of these particular plays that was on tour around, and geez, I thought it was really over the top, and the whole theme was a bit farcical. But I remember we were considering leaving at the interval, but I met Micheál Hogan, and I was telling him the thing, and he said, "Ger, forget about the play, watch the audience." Yeah. And I took that on board. Yeah. Now we did some of those plays, but we pulled them back. It's hard, you know. We pulled them back. We didn't want to play the house too much. Yeah. You know, we didn't. But they worked very well, and we had some great nights in Rossmore. Yeah, Out of Order, we knocked 20 nights out of it. Wow. With 17 during the summer, we used to do every Thursday and Sunday night, and we start in July into August and September, and then we ran it again one time at Christmas for 3 nights. With Us Paradise now is another big winner, you know. I think we knocked about 70 nights out of that as well. So that was a big earner for the group. Yeah. Yeah. You know, now the biggest trouble about summer theatre is that to get the commitment from a group, that they have to forgo their summer holidays. Yeah, you know, effectively they're only a few days at a time to spend anywhere. We had one lassie, and God, she jumped on a flight Sunday night, I'd say, and she flew off to Spain and got back Thursday evening, about an hour before the show. No, that's commitment. We'd have killed her. So there was 300 people waiting in the hall. Yeah, we have going forward from here, Ger. We have, I suppose, a lot of hurdles to jump to get back to where the amateur drama was, but I think it will. I hope so. Yeah, there are a lot of challenges. I see a lot of challenges out there, Paddy. Yeah, you know, I tell you. The ethos, everything here is everybody here is volunteer. Nobody gets paid for anything in our sector. But I can see that the ethos of volunteerism is declining. There's a new wave of people that have come into our area. When I was teaching, I knew not only the kids, I probably taught their parents. I knew their grandparents well. They'd be all my own age. Now I go down to school there because they're all my friends, but obviously not during the COVID. But I go down there and I don't know who's who. They're all strangers. They're foreign names. I can't get over that. And they're not getting involved with us, not getting. Now, I think share of them are getting involved in the GA, okay, because their kids are. We're very, very active GA club here. We have 2 lovely pitches and a big hall there. And the GA lads, they're excellent. They do great work here, and they start with the kids, and they come into the school, and they have the Kilmeen Cubs there, and they start with the infants, and they do that. So those people, I worry about those.
Yeah.
Then you'll see that there are less groups willing to go on the circuit, Paddy. It's expensive. It's tough going, and I'd say unless that there's going to be good grant aid in the future, we're going to. I'd be very, very low to think that audiences will pack tightly into.
Yeah, for a while.
And I'd be afraid. And then you have the nights of Netflix down. People are, sort of thing. There's a new wave of entertainment out there.
Yeah, but you can't beat live theatre, as we know.
Oh, sure, I agree with you 100%, Paddy.
Ger, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Lockdown Conversations, and thank you so much.
I'd rather meet you somewhere else, Paddy.
Yeah, it's a pity it's only a glass of orange, but hopefully
we'll make up for that.
We will indeed. Ger, thank you so much for coming on to Lockdown Conversations. Just before we go, folks, I want to remind you of the weekend ahead. We're back to Scariff Bay Radio and the Clare Drama Festival. Tom Hanley and his team down there. Tom Hanley and his team.
Yeah.
Radio plays got off to a fantastic start last weekend.
Brilliant.
So I want you folks tune in to Scariff Bay Radio. We have both Saturday and Sunday night this week. We have 4 plays this weekend, so make sure and tune in there. Also, the ADCI are rolling out a social media course for festivals just when we're in our downtime. So if you watch your emails there for any of the festivals there that's watching tonight, watch your emails. Our PRO Lorna is going to get emails out to you there in the morning about what's coming up for social media courses for festivals while we're not doing anything. Folks, next week we're going for another Ross, not Rossmore. We're heading for Roscommon next week, and we're having the lovely Mary Cox on with us to have a chat. So we really look forward to that. That's it, folks, for this week. That was Ger Finn. I'm Paddy Farley, and thank you for joining us on Lockdown Conversations on this Thursday night. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.